Hi everyone, so today we are going to make these vegan carob chocolate covered dips. When I figured out how to make a good vegan ice cream, I remembered one of my favorite ice creams to get at the movie theaters when I was younger. You may not have heard of them, but they are basically these chocolate covered ice cream square bites that come with plain chocolate or a crispy coating. They're so nostalgic for me, so I was super excited when I figured out how to make them. You could either use a Rice Krispie coating or chopped nuts, which is what I used. So let's get started. We're going to make the ice cream filling. You will need a high-speed blender for this. You're going to soak 2 cups of cashews for at least 4 hours, and then you will pour the cashews into the high-speed blender, and then you will add 2 tablespoons of coconut cream, then 2 cups of water. As far as the vanilla goes, you will be adding 1 teaspoon of this powdered vanilla. If you only have vanilla extract, then you will be using 2 teaspoons. And as far as sweetener goes, we are going to be using pure maple syrup, 1 full cup. And then I like to add a few dashes of some sea salt just to balance out the sweetness. This part is optional, you don't have to do that. Then we are going to put the lid on and blend this up until it is completely blended down into a nice creamy texture. There should be no lumps or clumps. Okay, so I sped this up a little bit, but this is how it should look basically. Nice and creamy, and then we are going to pour this into some molds. I got these molds, I think, from Michael's. They are silicone molds that can be used for little small cakes or pies, and they work great for freezing things. And they basically make really large rectangles, so I'm only going to use about 4 of these, but you want to fill them to the top. But make sure that you fill these up in a pan so that when you pick them up, they don't spill everywhere, which I made this mistake of doing, but I'm just reminding you so that you don't make the mistake as well. And then you are going to put these in the freezer for a few hours. While those set, we are going to make the crunchy peanut topping. If you want to buy already cut and roasted nuts, you can do that, but I'm using raw peanuts, so we are going to roast them myself. I did about 1.5 cups. Place these in some parchment paper on a pan, and then I roasted them in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes on 350 Fahrenheit. If you are allergic to peanuts, you can use any other type of nut that you'd like. And if you don't want to use any type of nuts, you can also use any type of Rice Krispies, and this will give it still that crunchy texture that you're looking for. Here, I'm just showing you guys that this is how I knew that they were ready. They were pretty fragrant, and they also started to split a little bit. And then from here, I'm going to put these into my food processor. You can spend the time chopping them if you want, but mama is in a time crunch, so I use my food processor. This will get the job done a lot faster. So I'm going to speed this up a bit, but this is what they will look like when they are all done. You can make them a little bit small if you like, but I still want to have a little bit of that crunch. So I decided to leave some big crunchy pieces in there. I just poured this back in there so you guys can kind of see the texture that I was going for. There's a lot of small pieces, medium pieces, and some big crunchy pieces. This is going to give us the texture that I'm looking for. So I'm going to put this aside, and we are going to get back to our ice cream squares. So this is what they look like when they're frozen. We're going to act pretty quick here because I don't want them to melt, and I'm doing this in the summertime, or at the end of summer I should say. So we are going to cut them into cubes. You can really cut these exactly how you want them, but I wanted to really replicate the chocolate dibs looked, which are basically perfect little squares. So at first I cut them into triangles, and then I cut them down the middle into squares, and because they are pretty thick, I'm going to split them in half like you see me doing here. Now I guess they're not perfect exactly, but you get the point. I want them to be bite-sized and look pretty square. So we're going to do that for the rest of the squares and then throw them back in the freezer. Next up, we will be making the chocolate, which we will be dipping the little ice cream squares in. So here I'm going to pour 1.5 cups of melted coconut oil into a high-speed blender. And this is a great brand of carob powder. We are going to be using 1 1/4 cup of carob powder, and then to sweeten this we are going to add 1 cup of coconut sugar. Then we are going to add 1 teaspoon of some vanilla powder. I love that brand. And then we are going to blend this up. Now because the coconut sugar is not powdered, we are going to blend this until it is completely smooth. So I'm going to speed this up just to show you guys what I'm talking about. So this right here is the texture that I'm looking for. And this next step is optional. I'm going to add a little bit of sea salt to the chocolate. I just added a few dashes, and then I'm going to pour this chocolate into a mixing bowl. And now we are pretty much ready to start dipping. We have our carob chocolate ready, our roasted peanut pieces, and I placed those in a plate. And then we are going to take the squares out of the freezer, and I'm going to use my hands to dip these with this spatula, but feel free to use tongs if you like. So as you see me, I'm going to toss it in there, take it out, and then I just place them back on the parchment paper. These are going to be the plain chocolate ones. So we'll do some of these first. You can choose to do all of them in just plain chocolate, or you can add really whatever toppings you like, but I'm just doing these two options, so I'm showing you how to do just the plain dipped chocolate ones first. So I'm just going to speed this part up because I think you guys get the point. If it is hot in the climate that you live in, you do want to do this pretty fast because you don't want them to start melting. But since we froze the ice cream pieces right before this, you should be good. It will give you enough time to completely coat all of them and then put them back in the freezer for storage until you eat them. I did an equal amount of half and half. Now let's move on to the coated peanut version. So if you haven't already, take your peanuts and pour them into a bowl, something that's flat, so that you can roll your chocolate dip squares around in them, making sure that they are evenly coated. So we will be starting off with the same process of dipping the ice cream squares into the chocolate. And then from there, you need to act fast because the chocolate will start to harden as soon as it hits the ice cream. Once you've fully coated it, you are going to toss it in the nuts, and you can sprinkle the nuts all around it. That's pretty much the method I used. And then you are going to, again, place this back on the parchment paper. And my apologies, this isn't the best angle to see exactly what I'm doing, but you get the hint. It's not hard at all. And you are basically going to do this for the rest of your chocolate squares. Once you do this, they are going to be so yummy. You are going to want to eat them right away, so go ahead and have your share. But for the case of the rest of them, put them in a container and freeze them. This way you can just have them at your disposal. I like to use these ice cream pint containers that I got from Amazon. I will leave them down below. This way they don't get frostbitten, which if you want to put them directly back in the freezer on the tray, that's fine too. Just don't leave them like that for a long time. I'm just a little nitpicky and I don't like the smell of the freezer and all the foods that are in there to start to grasp onto my ice cream. So that's just a little personal tip, but do what you want. That's your business. And that is about it, you guys. I'm going to speed up the rest of the video, but I do have some leftover nuts. I have some leftover because I'm going to be making another recipe. I'm going to use these, but you'll see the chocolate is pretty much gone when I am done with this. But feel free to eat that by itself if you want to also. And I do have a mukbang for this video. I have decided to separate my mukbangs and my recipe videos just because I know not everybody likes to watch mukbangs and not everybody likes to watch recipe videos, so I separated them. But here we have our beautiful end result of the peanut coated crunchy bites, and then we also have the just chocolate coated bites. I'm going to show you what they look like when you bite into them, and here is an idea of how small they are just in my hand, but they are so yummy. The kids will love them. You're going to love them. They probably won't last very long in the freezer, and if you want to watch me try them on camera, make sure you click the cards above or just click on the link in the description. Bye!